afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for making time in your busy schedules. Taking time with your family to join us today for this press conference. My name is Zeldin Murphy. I'm the chairman of the John P. Jennings Veterans Advisory Panel for Senator Zeldin. Before we do the pledge of allegiance and silence, I'd like to acknowledge some people in the room of significance dealing with the Joseph Dwyer Program, which the Senator will describe. Dan Dwyer, I believe, is here, as well as Joseph's brother, who's in the room. That's in the back room.
Brian Dwyer also.
Oh, Brian, I didn't see his name yet. Brian Dwyer was also.
And as well.
Joe Lombardi, president of the Soldiers Angels, is here with us today. Chris Lucy from Conservative Society for Action. Various members of the panel are also in the audience that spent about a year working on this project to bring it to fruition. So before I introduce Chris, I'd like everybody to stand. Pledge of allegiance and the silence. For the veterans in the room, you do realize the protocol is that you're allowed to salute the flag with or without cover if you're indoors. Ready? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Veterans and also brother-in-law to Joseph Dwyer, who brought the situation to our attention nearly 4 years ago and helped develop an awareness for PTSD and for the situation involved with Joseph Dwyer's family altogether. So, ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Dwyer.
I'm dressed down today. I'm actually wearing the shirt for Joe. We're getting ready for his motorcycle rally in May. In June of 2008, the Dwyer family had an unfortunate loss of their brother Joe. In 2003, he was in Iraq, and he was there during the heavy fighting. He came home, and as a nation, a state, we let him and his family down. Joe passed away in our backyard, under our watch, by our enemies, but in our backyard. In December of 2008, Mr. Zeldin was running for Congress, I believe, at that time, and I just popped my head into his campaign office to tell him that we had this plan that we wanted to get the street that Joe grew up on renamed in his honor. And Mr. Zeldin and LW, they were behind us from that day forward and till today, and I'm sure for the future. And I would challenge anybody to find us a street or a monument or something where there's a soldier or a service member who is remembered by a memorial like that. If a member serves overseas and dies from the side effects of post-traumatic stress disorder overseas in combat theater, they're remembered on every memorial and they're written down as a war casualty. But when they come home, if they die in our backyard, they're forgotten about. And we leave the family the burden of having to deal with it. We don't give them that honor that Joe earned while he was overseas. One of the biggest issues that we're trying to battle with the post-traumatic stress disorder, and with everybody in the room, I don't have to explain to you because most of you already are very involved in this, is the stigmas that are associated with it. Stigmas that members don't want to come forward because it will affect possibly the jobs that they have, or the jobs that they could get, or the bad look that they'll get from it, to the demobilization process, which is flawed, to the way we categorize these deaths. I want to make it very, very clear today. We were invited up to Albany, I think February 29th of this year, where we were able to address the mental health committee about post-traumatic stress disorder in ways that we felt we could change it. And one of the things that I want to make crystal clear today, and if anything gets in the newspaper, the media, that's the most important thing to us and the family, is the one stigma that's associated with is the word suicide. Joe did not commit suicide. On Joe's death certificate, I'm sure I'm going to get this word wrong, but forgive me, it says difluorothane toxicity, puffing with related condition of PTSD. Joe did not want to die. He did not commit suicide. The way we explain it is he died from the side effects of a disease which is plaguing many of our returning troops from today as well as yesterwars. So I just want to make that clear that these are the stigmas that we have to clean up so that the family can once again have honor that they deserve, and also hopefully correct the issues that we are facing today. With that, I would like to thank Senator Zeldin for sticking with us and really pushing forward with this and the bill that we're trying to pass. The John Jennings Advisory Board, they're getting together, and there's a great group of people there that are brainstorming to try to find out the best way to take care of our guys today. So I want to thank Senator Zeldin and everybody who's involved with it. And at this time, I'd like to introduce a close friend for us now, Senator Lee Zeldin.
This will be for me one of my proudest days, not just for serving as elected official, just one of my proudest days overall. I remember the first time I put on a uniform, and I looked in the mirror and I knew I was doing the right thing. And at times we get called heroes when we wear the uniform, and what makes wearing a uniform so cool is that you are in the presence of your heroes. I never was one, but I was in the presence of the people I consider my heroes. Think of the people that worked before me, those that are here in this room, generations that have passed, but will never be forgotten. When I had to transition from active duty to the reserves, I had, right around that same time, the honor of getting to meet Christopher and the rest of the Dwyer family. PTSD and traumatic brain injury. We hear a lot of it lately. It was called something else in wars past. This isn't a new situation that our country is facing. I want whenever a sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice, is made by a member of our armed forces, that their sacrifice is not for naught. They'll always be forgotten. They raised their hand willing to die in defense of our freedom, of our Constitution, of this American flag. And if they have to pay the ultimate sacrifice, we have to make sure that wherever they are, they're smiling down on us. And today, wherever Joseph is, he's very proud of his family. He's very proud of Christopher. He's proud of all of you for being here. January of 2011, we created a Veterans Advisory Panel to help advise us on what we can do to help veterans in need. To help do something about the problem involved with post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury. At the same exact time, a very close friend of mine named John Jennings passed away. John had post-traumatic stress disorder. Many of us know John. And we ended up naming the panel after him. Here, Hattie Baldwin is here. Hattie was John's fiance when he had passed. I really want to say thank you to Hattie, to Mr. John Jennings, to the entire Jennings family for the inspiration with the panel. To all of the members here of that panel. The overwhelming advice was that we need to do something with regards to peer-to-peer counseling, peer-to-peer mentorship, to be able to put veterans in the same room as 8 or 10 other veterans that are of the similar age, that have the similar combat experience, so that they know that they're not alone. Because one of the problems of those who suffer from PTSD and TBI is that they go back to the civilian community where they're from and they feel isolated. They feel like they're alone. They're with family that may not understand the diagnosis and treatment and education that's necessary with regards to PTSD and TBI. They're at work, and they're having trouble at work with business associates that don't understand PTSD and TBI. We need to get smarter. This is a problem throughout our country. And we hear at times when New York State leads the way on a particular issue. Well, I'm very proud that right now New York is leading the way with the PFC Joseph Dwyer Program. And I hope that states throughout this country follow our lead. Let me explain what the program will do. There'll be a pilot program, and this is all approved, It's all finalized and it's done. The funding is now officially there. In 4 counties in our state, Suffolk, Rensselaer, Saratoga, and Jefferson County. Jefferson is where Fort Drum is. There's going to be this pilot program in those 4 counties where individuals with PTSD and TBI can be in a room with other veterans that are also suffering. Hopefully this works. And it's imperative on all of us to stay involved to make sure that this is implemented the right way so that we're helping as many veterans in need as possible. Because next year when I go back to Albany, I want to be able to go back to the governor and to Speaker Silver and Senate Majority Leader Skelos and say, it worked in these 4 counties, now we need to double the amount of funding. Now we need to help more veterans in more counties across the state. And while we're doing that, we need to get positive attention for what we're doing so that states elsewhere, you know what would be so cool, is for some other state, somewhere else in this country to say, they'd be introducing the PFC Joseph Dwyer Program where they are. Today is a little bit of groundbreaking for us, and you're all here for your own individual reasons. You might be here for your personal love of Joseph Dwyer. Many of you may recall that very famous picture of Joseph, of leaving the battlefield, carrying the wounded Iraqi soldier, and the cloud of smoke in the background, the front cover of USA Today, front cover of the Army Times. Everyone remembers that picture. It was a symbol of our heroism and bravery, of why we are so very proud of the American soldier. But Joseph returned home with the mental wounds of war, with post-traumatic stress disorder. And because of that, he left behind a young wife, a 2-year-old daughter, a very loving family that will make sure that he will never be forgotten. And it's our commitment to the Dwyer family, to the Jennings family, that we will never forget. We will never forget their sacrifice, and wherever they are, they should be smiling down on us, because we're doing everything in our power to make sure that this is that last chapter of these stories are rewritten. I'm going to close with this. A few years back, a reporter contacted me and said, I wanted to talk to a veteran with PTSD. And I connected him with John. And I spent hours talking to John on the phone, met in person, took pages and pages and pages of notes. The story wasn't written. I called up that reporter right after John passed away to break the news. Both of us obviously were in a lot of shock. And the sad thing was, is he said he realized that now I know enough to write, I'll be able to write my story. It wasn't a story that was going to be able to get put into print until it was too late. And for us, we need to do something about it before it's too late. And that's why this program now exists. That's why we're all here, and it's something all of us should be very proud of, to be here on this historic day, on this historic announcement, that for the first time, we have states that are addressing post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, and saying we will do everything in our power to rewrite that final chapter for our brave men and women that are willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice to come home with the mental wounds of war. I just want to thank a few people, if you wouldn't mind indulging me. I need a list just to make sure I don't forget everyone. Everyone has served on the panel. Just to name a few, Chris Delaney, Dennis O'Donnell is here in spirit. I know John Javis is here. Brian Dwyer, who came to Albany for the hearing, obviously the entire Dwyer family for being here. We had a hearing on February 28th at the Senate Mental Health Committee, and it meant a lot that everyone who took the trip came. We have Gold Star parents here. We have Blue Star parents here. For those Gold Star families, we constantly try to find a way, I try to constantly find a way to make sure that each individual sacrifice was really worth it. I want to get really as much as we possibly can from their sacrifice. Our country should be so very proud, and it's just all of our commitments to you, the Gold Star families that are here and not here. You are in our thoughts and prayers each and every day. For the Blue Star families that are here, we do remember, and we do know each day that we do have men and women overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan in harm's way. So as the weather gets warmer, we start going to the beach, we start having a barbecue. It's not as comfortable for some other people that aren't here. The Patriot Guard Riders, to George Egan, South Carolina from the Korean War Vets, Maureen Johnston from the Marine Corps League, Long Island Debate, Doreen Kenny of Jacobs Light. All those people have been so great. Gary Patricio, the commander here, thank you for opening up this particular department to the VFW. We have the sub-county commander here, John Morrow. The VFW to the American Legion to the AMVETS. Senator Roy McDonald. Senator Roy McDonald is the chairman of the Mental Health Committee in Albany. He co-chaired that hearing with me, and it really was a partnership between the two of us to make sure that this funding got into the finalized budget. To Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos, who's not here, he has a little more juice than Roy and I, and he put this over the finish line, so I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize him. To Governor Cuomo, it's the executive budget that we approved. So Governor Cuomo was the one that was the last person to agree to this, and I want to say thank you to him as well. Now we have a few elected officials who, if they wouldn't mind, I'd like to introduce and have them come up and say a few words. We have Assemblyman Al Graff. We have the new town clerk here in the town of Islip, Olga Murray, and the deputy supervisor of Brookhaven Town, as well as town councilwoman Kathy Walsh, who really did all the hard work of getting the street renamed in honor of the Dwyer family. First, I'd like to introduce Assemblyman Al Graff.
I'm going to be brief. I want to thank Lee for spearheading this. But the other people I want to thank is look around the room and take a look at all the veterans around. And your voices are always in the forefront to make sure that our veterans are not forgotten after they take off their uniform. And you're the voice that makes sure that we just don't walk away from our veterans. And I think that's important. And if I can, I'd just like to give them a round of applause. Very important program, and one I'm very proud of that we was able to bring forward here. You know what? When you become a veteran as an ex-Navy, as a Navy veteran, not an ex-Navy veteran, I'm still here, but as a Navy veteran, you know, there's a certain brotherhood that's just specific to veterans, and you can talk to other veterans in a way that people that aren't veterans can't, and that's what makes this program so important. Is you have veterans talking to other veterans in order to help them because they can understand what they're going through. So I congratulate Senator Zeldin and I congratulate all the veterans in this room because you're the voice that makes sure that when our veterans come home, they're not just forgotten about. You're always leading the charge to make sure that the people that have put themselves in harm's way are taken care of once they come back. You look around the room, you'll have 3 war veterans. And you'll have Vietnam veterans that when they came back from serving their country, right, they just were expected to blend into the rest of society. Well, sometimes it doesn't work. So what I want to do is especially thank the veterans in this room because I know you're always fighting to make sure that the men and women that serve in the armed forces are taken care of once they come home. So thank you very much.
Introduce Islip Town Clerk Olga Murray.
Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to speak here today. I'm going to take us back quite a few years. April 1st, Easter, 1945, invasion of Okinawa. That was really my first contact with veterans with PTSD. My father was involved in that invasion. I wasn't born yet, but my entire family felt the impact of that day and the rest of the days that he spent in World War II. I'm here today wearing several different hats. I am Islip Town Clerk, but I'm also the chaplain of Brucey Bound, Post 411 American Legion, right behind Town Hall, and I am also the daughter of a World War II vet. I am so thrilled, and I applaud Senator Zeldin and everyone in this room to see that these type of situations and these veterans coming home with these conditions are finally being even recognized, no less being addressed. And I just wish the best of everybody with the program, and God bless everybody. And my nephew's, my godson's over in Afghanistan right now, so if everybody would give him an extra thought, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
To introduce Brookhaven Town Councilwoman Kathy Walsh. I can embarrass Kathy for a second. Kathy and her family, I'm sure that she might be willing to speak a little bit on it, if you don't mind. But she's really, when you talk about families that have gone through this and trying to rewrite that final chapter before it's too late, we're inspired by the loss in the Jennings family and the Dwyer family, but it's really for the Walsh family. It's for all the other families that where it's not too late. And I know how much this PTSD has impacted your family.
Thank you, Lee. If I don't cry, so forgive me, because I'm ready to shed a few tears over there. When my son came back from Afghanistan, he went through treatment at Northport VA, upstate at Montrose, New York, and back again at Northport VA. So we've kind of run the gamut on trying to help those that maybe don't want the help, but we know that they're hurting. There were 5 guys that my son was really close with through the program at Northport. Joe being one of them. We had 2 Dereks, Big Derek and Little Derek, and then Steve and my son Jason. Of the 5 guys, only my son and Steve are still here with us. And both of them are still struggling. I wasn't planning on getting up and speaking. Actually, from here, I'm heading over to Northport. I'm going to meet Michelle McNaughton. We're doing a dinner at the Salvation Army, where the guys transition and trying to help them to get home. But I speak to you here not as a council person or the deputy supervisor of the town, but as a mother, and thanking everyone. Many of you in this room, I have stood hand in hand. Chris Delaney spent probably one night about 4 or 5 hours on the phone with my son, because the trauma of trying to bring them back when they're way out there on the edge is really unbearable, and the options families have are to call the police or to call a friend. And one of the things you don't want to do is call the police, because you don't want to add more trauma. And Chris, I'll never forget that night, because I was hearing the bizarre things that were being said as I was in my bedroom and my son was in the other room on the phone with Chris. And it was hard to hear. It wasn't all factual, but it was his reality. And all of you here, the veterans that support us, families that are trying to help our loved ones through this, understand our reality. And I just want to say thank you all. Thank you all for being there. Programs like this, the Veterans Court we were able to work with and get in Suffolk County with Judge Toomey. He's phenomenal. We've been through the court system. I've sat there, and all of a sudden I find myself surrounded with veterans that know what I'm going through, know that we've wound up in the court system and it's not where we want to be, but they're there and they're a shoulder, and they still step outside. They take the time to give a hug to a burly 6'3" guy that don't want a hug. He just wants to take out walls and whatever around him to release the pain. But thank you all. And Senator Zeldin, we are so lucky to have you, with the understanding and compassion you have, to drive us on the state level, every level of government. Not everything is totally substantial, but chipping away a little bit at a time. Together we will get our men and women what they need, so thank you.
Just one quick minute of public service announcements, if you don't mind. Our panel is continuing to meet. Kevin Morello, who's on camera duty right now, raise your hand. Kevin is the staffer at my office who has been the main contact for the panel. So if you'd like to get involved going forward, basically we have $800,000 now for these 4 counties. We have a very short timeline to implement the plan. Our goal right now is something like 8 to 10 people per group, with a qualified coach that can that is qualified enough to know when someone may need some extra help and how can help guide the discussion and make it productive. But over the course of these next few weeks, we're going to be putting the final touches of how this money can be spent as efficiently as possible to make sure we're helping the most amount of veterans. So Kevin Morello is our staff contact. I have two other members of my staff here, Betty Ann Murphy, if you raise your hand, Ken Anziano. The chair of our panel, L.W. Murphy, who's done a great job putting everyone together. Thank you, L.W., for everything you've done. Tom Ronayne, who's in charge of the Veteran Service Office here in Suffolk County. This money's me going here through Suffolk, and Tom's going to play a very important role. And thank you for your leadership and everything that you have done. And John Javis is here somewhere. There's John in the back, and Dennis O'Donnell. So please get involved if you have any ideas. We want to do this as efficiently as possible so that next year we can come back and it's been a beacon of success so that we can double the amount of funding or even more to help more veterans in need. Thank you so much for coming out. And once again, thank you to the Dwyer family and Jen's family especially. Thank you.
What's the full time?
We have, after, there's going to be some pictures, and we have coffee and cake downstairs for everybody.
The panel members, please stay for a second, come to the front of the room for a photograph with the senator. Thanks.